Understandable. Have a nice day.
Okay. Cool. I won't be talking much. He managed to apparently bite the shit out of his lip while eating dinner.
Who won't be talking much? Alvor?
Atin.
Oh.
So.
Oof.
Atin, you gotta stop eating that meat.
He likes that sausage in his mouth.
Anyway, enough jokes about Atin's sexual life. Let's talk about fanfiction. So, did you end up picking that commission up from that guy? Did you end up settling on one?
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I finally found something reasonable. And amusingly enough, it's something I've already got like 70% written that was just laying around. And I'm like, you know what? You're outlining something I've already got. I'm not going to tell him this. I'm just going to throw it into a new document, make some edits, and bing, bam, boom, here we go.
All right, that's cool. That's cool. There we go. Is this going to be like one of those like customized for him sort of situations, or is this going to be a I'm being paid to do my own thing with this?
Closer to the first than the second. Closer than I like.
Yeah, that's fair. That's unfortunate.
That's why I talked him down into a one-shot for something a hell of a lot simpler, as opposed to what was looking like an entire book's worth of content.
Yeah, so effectively, to fill everyone else in on what happened, the TLDR, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Someone approached Mr. Horny here for a commission, and was it 4 or 5 ideas they proposed to you?
Yeah.
They proposed like 10 book long ideas to him. And all of them were in media res.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Or what?
It was fucking terrible. Like, and Sign was even retranslating it. He wasn't directly posting. He was retranslating most of it for us. But yeah, it was...
sound interesting, and even upselling it? No.
Yeah, they were fucking terrible. Like, admittedly, interesting ideas on their own, maybe.
Over half of them were either books themselves or stories themselves already.
Yeah, I pointed that out afterwards. I'm like, he is literally wanting to commission you to rewrite several fanfics, popular fanfics, I might add. Popular fanfics or mangas. Just 2 of the stories were just straight out fucking posted mangas or published stories on Royal Road. Like,
shit was bad.
Actual fucking books that are already existing.
Or, you know, Worm without Worm, just the powers and the shards, and set up the entire situation, but don't do Worm.
Yeah, it's literally Worm, because he goes and grabs all of the Worm powers, specifically from Worm. And then the character goes off to his own AU of Earth and does Worm, except he's actually God. Isn't that fucking riveting?
You could do a PHO, an entire story worth of PHO reactions to this.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Perish.
Yeah. There's a limit to stupid. We have not found it yet. No, there is 100% a limit to stupid. We just have not found it yet. Anyway, so today we have some spicy rum. Oh, went down the wrong pipe. Oh God. Yeah.
Sounds like it's already fighting with you.
No, that wasn't the rum. That was my nasal drip. Yeah, so spicy rum. Purchased some today because I want to try out how the spicy rum tastes versus the cream rum. In a
What brand?
The brand is Bumbu.
I like Bumbu. Bumbu's good.
All right, then I have high hopes. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of commissions, I did get an offer earlier today that I'm probably gonna take.
Oh yeah.
Far.
A Worm Lovecraft crossover, and the client basically said go wild with the body horror, and I trust my self-censorship enough not to get banned at this point, so.
Yeah, Alvor here is he's got an interesting clientele who are all really interested in their furries.
Some of them. This one was actually a fan of Flask, where is everyone here boomer enough to have seen Flubber as a kid?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, maybe not Aura,
Certainly.
but no one cares about Aura. Oh no, wait, Aura's 27. Yeah, fuck Aura.
So
that,
what's
but a
the-
superpower.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Sound bad.
Oh God, Flubber, I remember that.
That's
movie.
all right.
So my clientele, furries is the wrong word.
Body horrorists.
Something like that. Especially since I'm not a furry, so I'm not really good at writing what furries are into. And
You want to keep
that's
it that way.
more of, huh?
Yes.
I said you want to keep it that way.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just not my cup of tea. So I think it's more that I like to really get into the transformation aspect, and speculative biology is actually something I'm really into.
Yeah,
so
he's also written, was it Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossing over with Worm because of a nuclear bomb?
not quite, but yes.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, my most popular character is everyone thinks I've turned Amy into a green slime monster currently living in Gru's head. But
What?
that's not actually her, but I'm not gonna tell them that.
I'm sorry, what?
Gru got turned basically into an 8-foot tall metal. And basically a super evolution bomb went off. And so a particularly aggressive species of creeper vine ended up literally growing on him one night as he stood guard, and it's now currently living in his skull.
Oh no.
But no, I enjoyed that one. I was initially going to make Lisa into a bubble jellyfish with about 1,000 eyes pointing in a bunch of different directions, and then I was told that would probably be too much, and
Yeah, you don't say.
I'm a little disappointed I didn't try and push that one through. That would have been fun. That would have been fun.
Holder.
Kind of. I was imagining a central body only, none of the eye stalks, but with perhaps a core structure in an otherwise gas-filled bladder, with not literally 1,000 eyes, but maybe several dozen clustered around the center stalk, pointing in every direction, and a mouth, of course. You've got to have a mouth, otherwise she can't be she can't poke at people's egos.
The lack of mouth is possibly the best upgrade you could ever give to Tattletale in a fanfic.
Sure, but This is Worm. People can't have nice things.
Fair.
God fucking damn it. Okay. That got me.
I'm glad.
Oh,
But no,
God.
I'm not going to be on for too long tonight, guys. But to get into it, what's the plan, Sneaky?
I feel like the plan right now is I don't know. What are you guys feeling tonight? Worm, maybe? Worm crossovers, maybe?
Worm by itself.
I mean, is there a difference?
It's all fanon either way.
That was just a little mean. True, but mean.
Yeah, well, they deserve it. For example, Skitterdoc 2077, a crossover between the Worm Cyberpunk universe. The main character is a Taylor from an alternative universe. She's actually Riley triggered with QA bug control who killed Jack Slash.
But why call Bonesaw Taylor if she's just alt power Bonesaw?
Because that's the surprise.
Oh, okay, wait, hold on. Okay, so hold on. No. The author is just retarded and doesn't know what subject is. Okay, so the main character is Taylor from an AU. The AU is that Riley killed Jack Slash with bug control powers. Not that Taylor is Riley, who has bug control powers, who killed Jack Slash.
So, well, Jack Slash kidnapped her as a small child and groomed her into being a serial killer?
That's canon, yes.
Alright. Rock and roll, man.
So anyway,
Rock
Taylor,
and roll.
who is not Riley, lives canon, and then she gets teleported into the cyberpunk universe as a medical tinker?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood what was going on there. No,
Yeah, like I said, the author's fucking garbage.
Yeah, no. Medical tinkers are always fun.
See, the issue I have with a lot of the Worm alt powers is they don't... If this was Marvel or DC, I wouldn't give a shit. But Worm specifically outlines how you get a power and how that power specifically works and the limits of it.
You basically have to have an entirely different trigger event to get a different power.
Yeah. And not only that, it's like Tinker powers specifically. And I'm not talking about the Ward bullshit or the Glowworm bullshit. Fuck that garbage. That just made the world even more complicated and more retarded because it effectively nullifies the existence of Tinkers. So, Tinkers specifically are outlined as having triggered from a long-term stress event instead of, one bad day. And a medical tinker would need to be something along the lines of, your mom's dying from cancer or some shit. Your dad...
Or what was to original Riley.
Well, Riley triggered specifically as with medical tinker powers because her parents got tortured for, fucking weeks in front of her.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, barring the S9 knocking down your door and torturing your parents in front of you for several weeks and then making you torture them for more weeks, you know, you're not going to trigger with medical tinker powers usually. More likely you're going to be triggering with a shaker power to heal yourself. But probably not even heal yourself. It's probably going to be something like regeneration, but the regeneration replaces that body part with something else. You know, like Aegis and Crawler. The powers are also universally not positive. This is on purpose. The power is not supposed to make your life more convenient in a social way. Because it's supposed to cause conflict so they can generate data. So a medical tinker's powers are going to be pretty fucked up like Bonesaw's. Where it's like, you know, oh yeah, I can make drones, but you have to use a human brain and I have to stick crab legs on it. And it's gonna like crawl around like a fucking murder baby. You know, that sort of shit.
Didn't they canonically say something like blaster powers were the most common?
Yes, because a direct resolution to the problem is the most likely solution, and so that's typically what the powers will give you. So if it's like, oh my god, someone's shooting at me, and then you trigger, you're gonna get the power to shoot back. You're probably not gonna get the power to take the bullets and then run at them still. If you've been shot a bunch, then you'll develop a power that either turns you into something else that's not injured, or it'll give you some sort of regenerative power, or it'll make you not have to need lungs anymore, or, you know, some sort of bullshit like that. So that's why blaster is way more common, because direct force is typically a far better immediate solution to the problem. And that's what the powers are. They're supposed to be immediate solutions to the problem. And
you know, a really cool medical tinker power could be triage oriented, perhaps an EMT who triggered, specifically designed to deal with the consequences of powers, to study, analyze, see what their effects are in a human body, and then the fact that it lets you heal people who have been injured by powers is just more of a nice side effect.
That
Sounds like too good an idea for Worm.
No, I'm 50-50 on that. Because the directive that's higher than all other directives is that the shard is supposed to ensure that the host never finds out about how powers actually work.
Gotcha.
And it was only... Yeah, it was only because... let's see, Miss Militia was the only one able to remember her trigger event because her shard gave her perfect memory. So basically that was like an exception loop where it gave her perfect memory, so it stored the memory of her trigger event so it couldn't remove it. And then it was Bonesaw who was capable of diagnosing trigger events. Because of her specialty with biomatter, and I believe it was also Panacea, due to both of their abilities to operate on the brain. So their shards had to give them information about how that organ works.
Also, Green Bitch.
Yes, her too.
You know who I'm talking about, the one in the birdcage.
Yeah, I do. That's the Fairy Queen, right?
Yeah, the Fairy
Black
Queen.
Pigway.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Did she fucking turn into a Mary Sue? She's Valkyrie
my God, I
in
know.
Ward, right?
Yeah.
I just remember thinking they took everything interesting about her and made her meh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Because that was his intent.
Yeah. Yeah, because he spent too long on the Cauldron Discord.
Well, not just he grew to hate Worm because everybody loved it, and he didn't want them to love it, so he tried to make it so that they'd hate it more.
or something.
Actually,
I don't know.
a really fun story about that. There's a band called the Decemberists, and they play a song called the Rake Song, and it's really screwed up. Like, really, really screwed up.
Okay.
It's also a fan favorite, and the lead vocalist absolutely hates that that's one of their most popular songs. So the story goes, one time they had to play it because the crowd was calling for it, and the whole crowd gets into it, and he gets so angry at this. He yells at the crowd like, "Why are you getting into it?" And and it turns out that just everyone loves this song. It's literally a song about a dude going crazy and unaliving his whole family.
Jesus Christ.
So-
I mean, I always love it when artists just get so angry over shit like that. Like that one fanfiction dude who wrote a shit post and like this super serious original story, and no one paid attention to his original story because it was the most boring fucking medieval fantasy ever. It is, as the kids would say, extremely mid.
I hate that you said that word.
And it is so fucking boring. So then he crossed Worm over into it, where post Golden Morning Taylor ends up with bug control again, but now she's in medieval fantasy of his world. And it was so fucking boring still. The only thing that had people reading for a while was the interest of, how would medieval fantasy people react to this person that without spells, without any form of magic, seemingly just can control every bug around them. And so that was interesting for a while, and then people were sort of interested because he added the plot hook of eventually other characters from Worm would cross over. And he started doing that, and everyone's like, okay, well, who's next? Who's next? Well, who does Taylor meet next? And then everyone stopped reading because he just crossed over pretty much the entire main cast, and it got super fucking boring. And the world itself was just extremely boring, and there was no reason to read it anymore. And he got so pissed that people loved his shit post, but no one would read the story he, and I quote, puts at least 5 times the amount of effort into.
Trying too hard, bro.
I just gotta say I feel for him.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And then there was the Tanya author, who kept making Tanya worse in every iteration because the web novel is different from the light novel, which is different from the manga, which is different from the anime, because they all came out with a year plus gap in between each. So he actually changed the plot and the backstory and pretty much the entire world, except for the general idea of the events that occur. And he even changed some of that for the anime, specifically because people liked Tanya, and he didn't like that people liked Tanya.
Oh, this is one of those she's supposed to be evil and you're not supposed to like her things.
Yes, it was supposed to be an evil main character that you weren't supposed to like reading about, which makes no fucking sense, because how are you going to be successful if people don't want to read your story?
Well, no, he wants you to like it, but just in the way he wants you to like it.
He wanted people to like the story, but not like Tanya, which is not how it works with 99% of the population.
Yeah.
And I'm even including myself in that one. Like, if I don't like the main character of a story, I'm not fucking... The world could be the most interesting thing ever, and I couldn't fucking give a shit.
Fucking seconded.
So yeah, that's why. And then people liked Visha, so he made her a potato. People liked Tanya still, so he gave her duck lips and made her do more war crimes in the anime, and was even more unrepentant, and just did not understand why Western audiences loved Tanya even more the more war crimes she did. A real Japan moment.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yes.
I always loved seeing those stories where authors are like, I don't get it. Why do they like this character? They're supposed to hate this character.
Why
Well-
don't they like this government-loving bootlicker? And why do they really hate this character who's abusing the Why do they really love this character that's abusing the system? They're not supposed to like that character.
Yeah. Like the MHA author in Stains. Like, why do the West like Stains? Because he has a really good point and he's acting on said point.
Yes.
The MHA author who didn't understand why the Western audiences liked Stain so much, and it's like, bro.
Who's Stain?
Stain is the anti-villain. Anti-villain? That's the right?
Anti-hero and he's the Punisher.
Yes,
Also
okay.
anti-villain, he's both.
Yeah, he's both an anti-villain and an anti-hero. He goes around and he'll kill anyone that like crosses him in terms of heroes, but he'll specifically target heroes that are known for their corruption.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
now.
And
I read the manga and then I kind of just dipped out.
Yeah,
When
same.
odds are you picked a good time to dip out.
But
Yeah.
no, I remember Stain now. Actually, I remember Stain was genuinely a stand-up guy who stood behind his values.
Yes.
Didn't he like destroy his own organs or something to save Izuku from one of the
Yes.
Nomu?
Yeah. So Stain's thing was that like it wasn't that he went after people that got in his way.
I didn't say that.
No, well, you said something like that, but like
I said
if,
he
uh,
won't not kill someone for getting in his way, but he specifically targets the corrupt.
Stain's thing was that he had
literally for a majority of the fight with Izuku, he was gonna kill Izuku because Izuku was in his way preventing him from killing Native. And it was only near the end where he realized Izuku was actually a genuine hero that he was like, oh wait, well I don't actually want to kill him now.
yeah, but that's because he figured that Izuku was defending him because Izuku's corrupt as well. Like, there's a difference between I will get rid of anyone in my way versus
Right, but he assumed
probably in
everyone.
on it.
Right, but he assumed everyone defending a corrupt man was also corrupt. So I'm
well,
trying
Native
to
also wasn't
explain it
corrupt.
to the general audience without trying to explain the
Yeah.
intricacies of a madman.
Well, let's not forget, it wasn't even corrupt heroes he was going after. It was people who were pretty much in it just for money. Like,
Yeah, that
it
was his
wasn't a-
shtick.
it wasn't a passion that they were pursuing, it was a job. And
Yes.
he had his idea of what a hero should be, and they didn't meet that standard, which, to be fair, I get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Especially because he's probably a way bigger All Might stand than even Izuku is.
Yes, also true.
The-
I have no idea what you just said.
I don't think anyone knew what he said.
I don't think anyone did. Stain did nothing wrong. Yes. Yeah. That was a very common quote on the Western side, and yes, Japan was very confused by this one.
Yeah, I can tell
Yeah.
you straight up, it would have made no sense to them. He's breaking group conformity. He's attempting to pursue ideology at the cost of stability. Like-
Personal justice, not letting the
Yeah,
government handle
he's
it.
very individualistic, and he's putting his individual valuation over collective valuation, which just is not how the Japanese think.
Yeah. So that was yeah. I always love it when the authors don't understand their audience. I always find that hilarious.
Well, I love when it happens due to culture shock more than anything, because it's so
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's so interesting seeing the difference in cultural values at that point.
yeah. I don't understand. Why is this specific part of the audience supporting this guy who holds by his ideals no matter what, and is also enacting them upon the society that birthed him this way? Can't imagine. Can't be me. But anyway, so back to why I hate Worm and why I hate Worm stories in general. The way you get powers is stupid. I'm gonna say that flat out. It's just dumb. It sounds cool when you explain it, but then you have to make all these really complicated backstories for every single hero and villain, because it's like, oh, they can't have an always shit life, because they've had an always shit life. It's really hard to break someone at that point. So they have to have an okay life for a period of time, and then they have to have a really terrible moment so they can have that one trigger moment. And it's like, okay, kind of dumb, but all right. And then he even flat out admits in his story that a majority of the world has barely any triggers. Like, New York, it's got like 10 total.
Oh, well, hang on, that don't make any sense.
Africa's got a lot.
Well, we don't actually know how much Africa has.
Well, I mean, if New York City has 10, let's just all say they're in New York City, then what? Like, most of the Midwest of the U.S. might have one.
Yes,
per capita,
literally.
at most.
Yes, that he literally canonized that, where he was like, yeah, some cities and towns might not even have any in the Midwest.
Okay, yeah, that's something that I will fully admit has always bothered me. Because it's like, all you have to do is have one really bad day, and I'm sitting here like, that can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people.
Exactly, and you
Like,
know,
we're
not
talking
only
at least, I'd say what, at least 30% of the population should probably have powers by this point.
yeah,
in time.
but at the same time, you also get the RNG of you have 7 billion people in the world and only like a couple thousand power shards.
No, those shards are automatically stated to be handing out multiple powers to multiple people, and then
Okay.
new shards butt off of them, handing out new powers. Like,
Yeah.
Void shard is an entirely new shard, butted off of.
But to get a
moms.
butted shard, you have to have the shard be active for long enough to collect enough alternative data to create a butt.
Yes. Also, there's the RNG of who had the little tumors that are required.
Right. Exactly.
To connect
That's what I'm
the
saying.
shards.
Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot going on there. That, you know, it's very RNG based, extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to create new heroes. It's extremely difficult to create heroes in general, period, because if everyone's powers is based off having a really bad day and you're working off of RNG, I'm sorry, I hate to break this to you, but there's a lot more dicks in the world than good people.
Well, it's not just that. If there's so few people with powers, wouldn't Cauldron be able to play Kingmaker infinitely? They can manufacture
yes, that
powers
was
in a
literally
vial.
what they did.
No, but like, there's no reason to do stuff like experiment with parahuman feudalism. There is no hero-villain unbalance. Also, there should be no rapid proliferation of villains, which we're told explicitly is one of the ways to get a city walled. They should literally just be able to say, okay, every major city in every Western nation is just going to get 3 Cauldron capes that are assigned to looking after it.
Yeah, you would think that. That would be smart. That would be intelligent. The author is not, however.
All right. Okay, I'm overthinking it. You're right, Sneaky.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, because the author also explicitly stated is that I almost called it fucking Stillwater.
No.
Oh, fucking hell. Brockton Bay. Brockton Bay was explicitly stated to be a Cauldron test case, and explicitly the reason why there is so many capes in Brockton Bay is because of Cauldron. How they fucking manage that? Who knows? But literally it is like minimal everywhere else. Almost heroes and capes in general basically don't exist everywhere else. It's like, what? The guild, which covers all of Canada, has like 13 capes or something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, basically doesn't McFucking exist. You know, when you get a population of 300 million, and the most capes you have in a city of 70 million is 20, counting the villains, neutrals, and heroes. You know,
I mean, Why not just send the army in at that point?
Oh, because Cauldron.
Because we don't want to kill them, we need them for later.
Yeah, Cauldron, literally, he canonized that the reason why no one tries to kill Capes is because,
Oh, I recall that.
yeah, Contessa literally put a butterfly in the trajectory of bullets of sniper rifles to prevent them from killing the Capes. And so people just stopped trying.
Like, that makes no sense. They're just
No.
gonna escalate.
Yeah, that makes no fucking sense at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Especially in America.
Well, in America, people are gonna use gas. They're gonna use bombs. They're just gonna use a car.
Or, you know,
Like,
stab the shit
Contessa
out of them.
stopped all of it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Contessa literally stops all of it. Yeah, it's the dumbest shit ever. That's the other problem with Worm, is you have Cauldron, and you have the Endbringers, and you have the countdown timer that is Scion. And those three things make for a terrible fucking story to write an original character in or original power sets in, especially when the main character is fucking Superman and has to save the day with their exact power set happening in the exact way that it did to get them into the mental state required for them to do the exact things that caused the world to be saved.
see, I'm gonna say this, and this is probably my fault, just having a crappy memory. But when I read Worm, I legitimately was under the impression that there were like thousands of parahumans in America alone,
No.
and tens of thousands more worldwide.
No.
Like, when I imagined the elite controlling the West Coast,
Bro.
I imagined this
No,
intricate network of mafia-like.
Bro, there's not even 50 in Canada.
Jesus have mercy.
Yeah.
That's a disappointment.
To give you an idea of how little Wildbow really understands numbers, he thinks 16 people is enough to control the ABB, who control 1/3 of a city with a population of 300,000.
Yeah, see, that always confused me because Lung's reputation is like, yeah, he's scary and big and we don't want to piss him off, but doesn't he hide the fact he's the Dragon of Kyushu?
No.
No.
I thought that was like something he didn't advertise because he was hiding from the Yangban.
Sort of. So it's the whole thing with he's wearing a metal mask, but it's kind of really hard to cover up the fact that he's the giant dragon of Kyushu when he turns into a giant dragon.
He's a
Gotcha.
bit...
I'm
Yeah,
probably
it's
just
plot
getting
armor.
things mixed up in my head.
No, he is hiding from the Yangban.
Gotcha.
It's just plot armor is protecting him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess if you framed it like all those 16 people have their own gangs, their lieutenants.
No, literally, there's 16 people in the ABB.
But that's just not enough people to fucking run a business.
It's enough people to run a block. A
If
single
that.
fucking street block. Yeah, no, the Wildbow doesn't understand numbers at all.
See, when I imagine the ABB, I'm thinking like thousands of multi-ethnic immigrants with subdivisions based on what type of Asian they're from,
That's what you would
language they
think.
speak.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's what makes sense. Yeah, and then
But remember, this is brought to you by Mr. Infinite Mass.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's another problem I have with Worm in general. But so you have the Endbringers, which are just a GG button, because if you make a city too successful, the Endbringers are supposed to show up and destroy it.
Yeah, to keep things from getting better.
So if you have an original character who does anything that makes a city better, the Endbringers show up to destroy it. And
If you have anyone that stands out too much, they show up because Eidolon gets jelly.
yeah, literally. And so it's just like, okay, so yeah, the who the fuck it is? If you're on a coastal city, a Leviathan will show up. if you have a city that has any sort of big power source like nuclear or some sort of tinker tech, Behemoth shows up, and if you're a tinker or your city's just doing well and Eidolon gets jealous of you, Smurg shows up.
Yeah. Ziz.
And you literally can't do shit about it because very specific power sets are required to counter them. So unless you completely rewrite how the Endbringers work, which would massively change canon, or your character's just some broken-ass OP build, those are the only two ways you can handle the Endbringers.
Or Scion shows up.
Or Scion shows up. Well, I don't even want to get into fucking how to fight Scion, because it's just nonsense.
Sometimes show up and drive off an Endbringer.
Yeah, but like how often can you have that happen? Because okay, the Endbringer shows up and Scion just happens to show up and drive him off. Oh wow, that's so convenient. All right.
I think it's happened twice in canon.
Yeah.
See, in virtually all of my stories, my plan with Zion was always to have some other way to deal with him, not Capri bullies him into suicide, because why fight Zion? There should be no way to win against Zion. Zion isn't a person, he's like an avatar, a hologram, basically.
Yes.
So why can't he just like shoot the silence beam? That's the golden unmaking beam, right? Like, why can't he just glass half the planet with that, instantly disintegrating every cape that's a threat to him?
Because technically speaking, he could just recall all the shards and kill every cape involved.
Yeah, alright, there you go. Don't even fight Capri, just...
He was depressed and angry.
Yeah, literally, he literally was given the idiot ball. That's how Taylor beat him, is he was handed an idiot ball.
Like, I mentioned
arm.
earlier, I was going to do a crossover of the Lovecraft mythos. And my solution for Zion was going to be that a group of sorcerers would just very politely ask a great old one to resurrect Eden, and Zion and Eden to please leave and not blow the planet up, because this is where they're currently sleeping. And Zion goes, bet, deal, and leaves.
Or, just have a great old one eat them, because...
No, great old ones aren't as powerful as everyone thinks. Cthulhu got knocked the fuck out by an icebreaker hitting him in the head. And yeah, he wasn't fully awake, but most great old ones are dangerous to individual humans or small groups of unprepared humans. But the weaker great old ones are little more than mystically powerful and physically imposing, which, yeah, that's terrifying if you're a 60-year-old professor who's geriatric.
What I'm saying here is that shards canonically don't know how to handle magic. Literally no defenses against it, can't concept shit, don't understand it.
I thought Wildbow explicitly said they could learn to use magic.
They could learn to use it if they encountered it and saw it being used. And they could eventually develop a shard to use it. But at the moment of canon, they have no ability to defend against it, no ability to use it, no ability to witness it, etc.
Not just magic, but psionics.
Yeah, that too.
So, dumb question. I thought, like, the entities were part of Wildbow's, like, shared universe and stuff.
Are they?
I mean, thought they were.
That's a retcon, if anything.
Alright, then maybe I'm misunderstanding what I read off the wiki, because I haven't read any of his stuff since Ward.
Yeah, that's definitely a retcon then, because Worm was never meant to be connected to his first story.
Gotcha.
So if any story after that he added the entities in, then that's complete retcon on his end.
Gotcha. His first story was Pact, right? The stuff with magic.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Then I'm probably misremembering it. Don't quote me on that, but I might look into that later.
Yeah. But yeah, so effectively, there's a bunch of lose conditions in Worm, and unlike in Marvel and DC, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go be Iron Dude in, I don't know, Milwaukee, and I'm gonna go fight this villain named Assbringer. I don't know. then you don't have to worry about also beating Darkseid. The fucking Justice League is there for that. You know, and they'll beat Darkseid. Because they always do. You know, like it's like we don't have to worry about Thanos. You know, your character doesn't personally have to worry about Thanos. The Avengers are going to beat him. You know, unless you want to do some sort of AU where they aren't going to beat him, but at that point you're shit out of luck anyway. Or you're already involved deep in it, and you're going to go fight Thanos yourself. So, doesn't
And probably
really matter.
get killed in like a half a panel splat.
Even if they have to use time travel to do it, yes. Even if they have to do time travel to do it, Atin. But point is still that they beat him in the end, and you don't have to actually handle that plot point as your original story in the DC world or Marvel world goes. You don't have to worry about Joker showing up in Atlanta and shooting up the bank you're in, or, you know, stealing your tech and blowing you up or anything. Because Joker doesn't leave. Well, yes, that it takes care of him, but Joker also doesn't really leave Arkham or
Gotham.
Gotham, yeah.
Well, depending on what arc of Joker we're talking about, it might also be Arkham. But you know, so and then you have like Superman. It's like if some real genuine big ass threat that could blow up the world shows up, Superman just takes him out. And we don't have to worry about that. You know? It's in Marvel and DC, you're gonna be a lot more flexible with what kind of hero you can have your story be about, because you don't have to worry about the big bad threats. But God forbid your story in Worm takes place in Brockton Bay and makes Taylor less decisive. God forbid you make her, you know, accidentally kill Panacea. And you're like, you know,
you would just have to do a hard AU and change fundamental parts of the story.
Yeah, and at that point, it's like, okay, well, what's the point of even writing in Worm then? Let me just change all the parts of Worm that make it hard to write in Worm. You don't have Worm anymore. You just have generic superhero modern urban fantasy. So that's why I prefer crossover stories where Taylor ends up in another world, even if before or after she gets her powers, or after Golden Morning. Especially like after Golden Morning, because then, as I was saying on a Sign server, you can basically write Taylor however you want with post Golden Morning Taylor. Because she's literally done everything and has had almost every personality type at some point, or self-justification as to why she needs to do something.
I still wish we had gotten more of her time in the wards. That Weaver was so much wasted potential, but yeah, I guess that's spilled milk at this point.
Yeah.
Wildbow is the king of wasted potential.
No, I'm not gonna just hate on him. I enjoyed Worm. Like, I legitimately enjoyed Worm. I'm one of those weird people. And I'm glad he wrote it, and I'm glad he's as successful as he is. It's just I have to admit I wouldn't have done what he did, but you know, different strokes for different folks, right?
To an extent, but yeah. It's just, you know, it's really hard because the world of Worm is so uninteresting. It's not like DXD, where the world is at least mildly interesting, and you can get a pretty good DXD story out of your self-insert, you know, you're low-born devil or some shit, or just a human, and you're like, I know what DXD is. I can literally do shonen training techniques to get stronger. And you do that shit, and you have your own little custom adventures, and, you know, maybe you plop in for a plot arc from canon or two. But only the ones you want to be involved in, because all that shit's still revolving around Issei and shit, so as long as you're not, you know, HQing and QO, you can basically ignore 90% of the plot.
Up to a point.
Yeah.
There's some parts of it where it just gets frustrating. Again, I read the light novel up to the 20s or whatever in the light novels, and I couldn't read past that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if you legitimately want to write a story about your dude wandering into the mountains of the Himalayas to go pick a fist fight with Sun Wukong, you can basically write cultivation fiction, but with the power of inappropriate thoughts.
Well, I mean, I would rather you didn't do that because you have to be a devil to do that, and B, that's what made me hate DxD in the first place. But yes, different strokes for different folks, I suppose. But DxD's got a lot going for it in terms of wild, varied powers you can use with a fairly popular medium that you can, use to get clicks. But Worm doesn't have any of that. If you write a story that is not the main cast, so basically Taylor, and if you don't write it, and if it isn't Taylor, and it's yourself in Sort OC, and you're like, I'm gonna be OC man in Memphis, you get like 2 readers. No one gives a shit. Original characters get less clicks. Not in Brockton Bay gets less clicks. You combine together, basically no one reads your story.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I guess you're speaking from personal experience, aren't you?
A little bit, but yeah. I mean, I get it. I didn't expect anything else. But the point of the matter is that it's just really, really hard to write an even remotely interesting Worm story.
I got you, man. Maybe one day I'll surprise you. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Maybe a good surprise and not a body horror surprise. But I'm putting less faith in that one.
No, honestly, I think part of that is me just trying to push the line as much as I can. But
we got a rule breaker here.
You might actually end up liking the Nagash story. With enough time, but
I would not put too much faith in that one. Well, that's the other issue with a lot of Worm stories, is they all come out with these really interesting ideas, and then they put out 10 chapters for it, and then they stop updating.
I heard about Nagash. I have come to say Nagash is cringe.
Thank you, Nose. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And now I leave.
Well, no, I thought it would be amusing to write someone as over the top, arrogant, and unrepentantly evil, as he was, without any of the pretensions of Worm. But no, well, maybe one day. But
yep.
I don't write stuff for everyone, and
yeah.
at the end of the day, I try to write for myself more than anything else.
Which is the best policy?
Oh, actually, while I have your attention, Atin recommended me a couple really good series of books that I think did a lot better with the modern superhero genre, I guess.
I can assure you he's recommended me all of them.
Ha.
What are they?
What was that?
What are they?
Here, let me grab them.
Wearing the cape. Yeah. We've talked about wearing the cape before.
Yeah, it was that. It was wearing the cape, and there was one something Vulcan. I don't recall. Atin, if you want, I suppose you could post the name in the chat, and I'll happily read it out.
But anyway, so yeah, let's read this fucking train wreck of a story.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
thought I would die inside that locker, and I thought for a while that I did, but that couldn't be what had happened. I had trapped in there for hours, screaming myself hoarse. Okay, so this is another thing I just absolutely loathe with unending passion about worm fanfic authors. Taylor was in the locker for 15 minutes.
What?
Yes. Taylor was in the locker for 15 minutes. She was not in there for hours. No, she was in the locker for 15 minutes. She was literally in the locker for the duration of homeroom. It's a Northeastern thing.
For homeroom?
Yes, homeroom.
Isn't that like an hour?
It's 15 minutes. Yes, Wildbow himself said that she was put in the locker before homeroom, and that she was out of the locker before first period, and at most, she would have been in the locker for 30 minutes. At most.
I'm quoting the wiki. It says an hour.
What? When the fuck did they change that?
7.0, 7.1, and
Okay, so...
Wildbow Word of God. It was an hour at least, maybe an hour and a half. It's as class opens that people realize what happened and that she's let out, or not so much time passes that the next class starts.
Yeah, so literally 15 minutes. Okay, so Wildbow himself doesn't know what time is.
No, he specifically specified an hour and a half max, or an hour and 15 minutes long.
Right, but
here.
if she was if she was out before the next class began.
Here.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was a full class, not just homeroom.
Okay, then even then, that's 45 minutes.
He says an hour and 15 minimum. Here.
Okay, so again, Wildbow doesn't know what time is then.
It's not that he doesn't know what time is, it's that he doesn't know how American schools run.
Yes, that's also true.
He's Canadian.
So even then, even still, an hour and 30 minutes. An hour and 30 minutes, not several days, not overnight, not several days as I've seen in some stories. Still, an hour and 30 minutes is excessive, but still is way less than half of the day, several days, overnight, a week, as I've seen in one
I mean,
story.
if nothing else, a janitor would have let her out to clean it up, and then probably freaked out at what they found.
Yes, I believe it was actually the janitor. But, you know, I just get so fucking irritated at this. She was in there for the entire day. Bullshit that fucking Fanon believes. Because let me tell you, I'm sorry, if you have bugs eating you for an entire day, you've never seen bugs clean off a bone.
Yeah,
Huh?
You're gonna be missing big chunks of your body at least.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're definitely dying from sepsis as the bug shit in you and rip you apart and you bleed everywhere.
This is why I always thought it was canon that they absolutely had to get Panacea involved, because it was that fucking bad. Like the bugs ate parts of her body.
It's been a long time. Did they ever actually canonically get Panacea involved?
No, she went to the hospital, but she was in a psych ward, or she was on a psychological hold. She didn't go into shock or a toxic shock. She had a psychotic break.
Yeah, because of all the bugs. Yeah. Which I admit I will give Taylor that one. I too would probably mentally break if I suddenly started hearing and seeing everything through several thousand point of views of bugs.
And not just that, I mean, being locked in a fucking locker full of all that shit. Oh no.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be able to do that one because I wouldn't fit in the fucking locker in the first place.
Well, okay, say somebody shoved you in a claustrophobic container of some sort.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
Pants, shit, bugs, and so on. Oh, you know.
Oh, I'd lose my shit, but it wouldn't be a psychotic break of like I'm seeing everything. It'd be a psychotic break of, well, what the fuck did you just throw me in? I'm gonna rip out your throat and shit down your neck.
Yeah, something like that.
No, I think the closest thing that ever happened to me in terms of bullying, I think I turned around and I punched the dude so hard and he bounced off the wall. But that's, I mean,
I threatened to lock a small girl, and she was like 4'6" or some shit. She was really fucking tiny. I threatened to lock her in one of the school recycling bins because she kept going around telling everyone we were dating. And she smelled like a literal piss pad that you use to train dogs on.
disgusting.
Like, she smelled so bad, you know which wing of the school she was in.
Oh, that's awful.
Oh yeah,
Your school couldn't send people home for shit like that?
No.
Ugh.
Yeah, she smelled
we had one in my grade in kindergarten who literally went under the desk, pissed and shit under the desk, and they didn't send her home.
Like, that's just people who do that are mentally ill. They need to be helped somewhere away from me.
They need to be helped somewhere away from me. Yeah. I had been trapped in there for hours, screaming myself hoarse. School had already let out. So yes, this is another one of those stories where she was in there the entire school day, hoping the janitor would find me. It was a futile hope, as none of my fellow students, and I'm pretty sure even teachers, ever helped me, but I wasn't going to give the trio the satisfaction of murdering me without trying to save myself, so beat against the locker doors. I'm sorry, but that shit's worse than military grade. If you've ever been in a fucking public school in America, the shit they make the lockers out of doesn't even deserve to be called metal.
It's basically strong aluminum foil.
Effectively, yeah.
No, that depends on where you went to school and what time. Because the lockers we had, oh damn, those things could have served as armor for tanks. They were made of steel.
Yeah, okay, well maybe in South America they are, but up here in the Northeast. Up here in the Northeast, lockers are made of tinfoil and dreams. Lockers I had were made of proper metal. They were also not person-sized. That's fair, and you also went to a private school.
Yeah, we had person-sized lockers when we were in elementary school, but as we got up into like 8th or so grade, we switched to like they just divided them in half basically and made 2 lockers.
I don't think I've ever had a full person-sized locker.
I mean, a small person, but a person-sized locker.
I mean, like a baby. Like I could fit a baby in my locker.
No, you could have fit a child in these, 11, 12-year-old child in one.
Not mine. Not the ones I used. Not the ones in the Northeast.
Ours were pretty fucking roomy.
Ours were not.
Again, in like the 50s.
But that doesn't even matter, though, because if you look at the locker that he has here for his image of what the locker in Winslow looks like, you're not fitting a person in those. I don't care how fucking skinny they are.
Those are like half as wide as they need to be.
And not only that, there's the top cubby on a lot of those long, tall lockers.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, even if you turn them sideways, you're just gonna be able to get someone in there.
And not only that, these lockers, and I'm just going to use these as in general these, as I don't know the specifics of these lockers, but assuming these are the cheap-ass lockers of a poor-ass public school in an underfunded city of a government conspiracy, I'm going to assume they don't have protected insides, which means there's not going to be a sheath on the locking mechanism, which means you can just lift the fucking lever from the inside.
Well, now, Sneaky, Sophia could have gotten her in there if she broke, a dozen bones and violently beat Taylor to death in front of everyone and shoved the broken body in sideways.
You're right, Alvor.
No. I think the thing with the locker incident, both in canon and in fanfiction, is that Wildbow had an idea, and it's a cool idea. It's a great horror scene.
The shoved into the locker thing is built off of the Hollywood cartoons, where the kid gets shoved into the locker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the quote unquote prank, the horror, the shame, bugs.
Yes, I'm aware of that part of being the horror, but I'm saying that his idea of the physics behind the locker scene are literally built off of Saturday morning cartoons about the kid that gets bullied by the jocks and they throw him into the locker. Because it's Saturday morning fucking cartoons coming out of Hollywood, and the physics on that are non-existent.
You think maybe a better place to have pulled that was perhaps a bathroom?
Dumpster.
Dumpster,
Yeah,
yes.
actually.
Hey, Taylor, we found your flute. It's in the dumpster. You better go get it before they empty it today. Ha 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 ha. She goes and climbs in. They fucking drop a master lock on the outside of the dumpster. She's a weak-ass little bitch. She can't break that fucking heavy-duty plastic.
Especially if they have some of their hang-arounds dump crap in there on top of her, too.
Yeah, I mean, sure, you can literally just all right, guys, go all grab the trash cans from the bathrooms and tell the teachers that we're just trying to help the janitor out for extra credit. Haha, Taylor's gonna get us some extra credit. And then you dump all the fucking trash cans into her.
Yeah, I think that would have worked a lot better. And I think actually a dumpster would have been better metaphorically than
exactly. It's
a
like,
locker.
and there's so much more shit in a dumpster. And, there's so much less of a chance of her actually being found. And then everyone gets to make jokes about her being the dumpster diver and shit. There's way more bullying potential from locking someone in a dumpster than it is dumping tampons and bugs into a locker and then somehow shoving Taylor, who is, by Wildbow's own words before the story begins, fat enough to have a obvious belly and is tall for her group. So
Actually, do you mind if I steal the dumpster idea?
You go for it. I fully support that shit.
Thank you.
But
I thought the belly thing was just her overreacting. She had a little bit.
No, she's not super fucking fat, but she had a clear belly. It wasn't like a beer belly, but it was like a I don't work out belly.
Muffin top and pudge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was skinny fat, I guess.
Yeah, she was very skinny, but she had a stomach, effectively. And she was tall. I believe Wildbow himself said she looked like a walking toad, in Taylor's words.
Yeah, but Wildbow also says everyone is ugly and then commissions art that does not match that at all.
Yes, that is true.
Also,
Actually,
who says the characters are artists on themselves?
Isn't Eidolon supposed to be like a dumpy, middle-aged whatever, and in the art he's actually like a jacked, heroic figure?
Yes.
Yes.
Because he never worked out after getting his powers, as far as I'm aware. The powers cured him, and then he was just like, lol, I have powers. I don't need to get stronger. I can just get a power that gets me stronger.
Which is probably why he's so cripplingly depressed.
Probably.
Hit the gym, boys. Hit the gym.
Indeed.
Nothing the gym will hit back.
Indeed. And now she has to rage against the dying of the light Mom would have quoted to her. What? I get the quote. I just
That's
don't.
fucking dumb.
I just don't understand the non sequitur of that. Also, again, I just hate the whole I'm trapped in the locker thing and I can't get out. Unless they literally put a padlock on the outside of your locker, which you can do on these. You just lift the lever.
But then that breaks the entire situation.
God.
I know, but it's just like oh, I raged against the locker. I've actually seen this a lot in a lot of stories of fanfics wise, where she's like pounding on the door, where she apparently has enough fucking room in this goddamn locker that she has full on fist swings against the door, and it's like bloodying her hands, pounding against the metal.
If it was big enough to fit a person, I could see her breaking her nails, but it's not going to be deep enough for any kind of momentum.
That's what I'm saying. And not only that, to fit her into a locker that thin, maybe it's super deep. Maybe it is. Maybe it's super deep, has no cubby. To fit her into a locker that thin, she would need to go shoulder first in.
Yeah, and it'd need to be about, 3 feet deep? At least?
Yeah. Which, I mean, maybe it is. We don't know. But going by the picture that the author himself chose, you'd have to go shoulder first in. You would have to be standing in the locker sideways. And yeah, you could maybe get like a fist half jerk pounding against the locker. But still, just lift the
I
lever.
did pull one Taylor ends up in the locker for an extended period of time, but I had her suffer a heart attack from the stress.
Oh, see, that's way better.
And just everyone thought she had already been let out because there was no noise from it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And no one bothered to check until, a janitor decided to clean the weird-smelling locker. And,
Did you know that Winslow turns off the heat as the school was out? I lost consciousness shivering,
that's on a timer.
wondering whether I would die from toxic shock or hypothermia.
Wait,
Okay.
This is after Christmas, right? So this is early spring.
She's
This
is
not gonna
January.
freeze to death.
This is January, dude.
It's supposed to be January.
January 3rd.
January 11th to the 3rd, something like that.
The 3rd.
Okay, so it's still cold, but she's around Boston.
Oh, Atin, you don't understand. It gets
She should
cold.
freeze to fucking death.
I wouldn't say freeze to death. It wouldn't get... Okay, maybe it would get 32. Yeah, okay. It is January.
No, because she's going to be in a small confined space with a lot of rotting material.
Yeah, that's a lot of heat, actually. Yeah, that's fair. So, yes, I will give you that. It's probably not going to get to below freezing inside there, and she's probably not going to die of hypothermia. However, this character sitting there being like, oh man, am I going to die of hypothermia or toxic shock? It's like, bitch, you've been in a locker filled with bugs eating you and literal toxic waste. Like, flesh-eating bacteria toxic waste.
Yeah, she's going to get something antibiotic
You get toxic
resistant.
shock after like 30 minutes. Let alone the 9 hours you've been in there.
Actually, stupid question here. How long does sepsis and toxic shock take to set in?
Very fast, and then you die very fast. Okay, so
in about 8 hours.
it took about 4 hours for the sepsis to show, and then they died within 24 hours on the most recent case I remember. But let's look that up.
Yeah, your liver, your kidneys, those shut down and you die.
Yeah, that's the main danger of when it comes to the flesh-eating bacteria, is that they tend to eat the everything. Which makes it a little bit harder to kill them because they're eating you.
Yeah, and that's actually a major issue with debridement treatments of things necrotizing fasciitis, is they can't actually get everything, because to get everything, they have to just start amputating whole portions of your body. And, well, once it gets to certain parts of your body, cutting it off just isn't an option.
Interesting. Okay. Septic shock can take up to... Okay, interesting. Sepsis can take several weeks to fully manifest, but once it fully manifests, you die within hours. Cool. I had sepsis in 2015. I was in a coma for 12 days and in a hospital for 23 more. A small scrape on my arm got infected, and it quickly took over my body. Yeah, okay. So it looks like this dude got a particularly bad case of sepsis, according to him. It took him a full day to develop symptoms, and then he was in a coma for 12 days in the hospital. From a single scrape. So we're talking about someone sitting in toxic waste with bugs chewing at her, causing active multiple wounds. Direct blood-to-blood contact with the waste.
I mean, from a medical point of view, I would be more worried about something like herpes or syphilis. I'm not sure how common flesh-eating bacteria is in non-intestinal fluid transfers, but any contact with blood is a major risk for
Oh, yeah, she's gonna get all the things.
Yeah, actually, isn't that just biological terrorism?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I've said before. As I've made this point before multiple times, of what they did was literal biological terrorism.
Because it was also indiscriminate as well, right? Because it couldn't be specifically targeted, meaning it would be considered a potential mass CAS event.
Yes, a biohazard event, yes, because they removed toxic waste from containers meant to contain toxic waste and put it into a publicly accessible area in an enclosed environment.
In a school.
Yeah, in a school.
So that's what, reckless endangerment for literally everyone that works there? That's...
Yes.
Multiple felonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because you also did on school property, so that's like terrorism against the government and shit.
Yeah. Actually, that'd probably just be a federal case outright.
No.
No?
Not simply on the ground of being in a school, no.
Gotcha. Well, I was thinking the scale of it meant that the state would step aside, allow the feds to come in, do a federal
terrorism
case.
incidents usually are handled federally.
It depends. It would be a fucking jurisdiction shit show.
In their defense, yeah, it would be a jurisdiction shit show. It was done in one locker, would not be dangerous to people at large, only anyone that opened the locker.
I can speak to the legality of that. It doesn't matter that it was in one locker, it's that anyone could have potentially accessed it. And because anyone could have potentially accessed it, it's considered to be indiscriminate.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, that's cool.
I can speak to the hazard. We actually had drills like that at my previous workplace. They would lock the entire school down and purge that entire hallway. Which
I think the FBI would probably just show up, and you just have a counterterrorism task force. I imagine.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
1/3 of people that die in a hospital die of sepsis.
Yeah, you go to the hospital to die. You don't go there to get better.
Are they talking about MRSA?
Sepsis or the infection that caused sepsis starts before the patient goes to the hospital in 90% of cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you get MRSA at the hospital. That's something resistant staph infection. You pick it up in hospitals because that's where it breeds.
Yeah.
You get it and you fucking die. It's what killed my grandfather.
Oof.
God be with him.
Let's see here.
So tell me, Sneaky, are there multiple pithy quotes like "Don't go gently into that dying light," or does the author?
Just that one so far.
Uh-huh.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find any sort of like time.
Actually, another piece of fandom that I absolutely hate. Aisha and Taylor were not best buddies from
No,
the
they
word
weren't.
go. Aisha repeatedly threatened to do horrible, really screwed up things to Taylor if Taylor ever upset Brian.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
If you live through sepsis, you get lovely side effects for the rest of your life, such as debilitating fatigue, rash, hair loss, painful joints, lack of appetite, shortness of breath, renal failure, cardiovascular events, and swelling of arms and legs. This is just like stuff that can just linger forever.
Yeah, you got a sickness that destroys your internal organs. You don't bounce back completely from something like that.
How long can you acquire sepsis before it kills you? Oh, okay, let's see here. 12 hours on worst estimates.
By the time you go to the hospital, you've probably had it for days.
Yep. Which is why it's so hard to survive it. Because by the time it's actually bad enough to go to the hospital for, it's pretty much too late.
Yep.
The good news, however, is if your grandparent dies in a nursing home to sepsis, you can get $500,000 in damages. I guess that's good news. I don't know. Be fucking terrible either way.
The shittiest consolation prize possible.
Pretty much. Let's see here. So anyway, she triggers, and the normal trigger shit goes on, and then something happens, and she wakes up on the floor, groaning in pain. I had already diagnosed my shoulder, which I mostly landed on with nothing more than a contusion. Also, by the way, this whole paragraph is one sentence. They just kept commenting.
Even if it's grammatically correct, it's cancer to read. Please don't do that, everyone.
I mean, Atin, there was a reason why people used to coat their blades in shit.
And that's a bad way to die.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. Also,
your enemy's gonna die screaming, though.
It's something about 70% of human bites will result in sepsis. Like, deadly sepsis.
I'm sorry, 70% of what?
Human bites.
You mean if somebody tries to take a bite out of you?
Oh, yes.
Good
Well,
to
yes,
know
obviously if it goes untreated, Atin. But yeah, no, the 70% of human bites contain deadly enough bacteria in them that the infection you get from them will kill you shortly. Within days.
So we're like Komodo dragons.
Yeah, except we don't use it to hunt, and it's just because our mouths are so hilariously toxic.
We also have a bad habit of touching our faces and mouths, which only makes things worse.
Well, it's great because our immune systems are hilariously strong. And the shit in our mouths kind of just exists in it. But oh boy, if that shit gets in your bloodstream,
You would think kissing would be more dangerous than it is, but no, it's really not.
it's not. As long as you're not like ripping open their lip or some shit, and but even then, your spit acts as a coagulant and antiseptic.
Indeed.
But yeah, human bites, hella nasty.
Remember, there was a thing back in, what was it, 2008, 2009, with people getting zombie bites in Florida due to bath salts.
Yes.
Somebody got their face ate off.
Yeah, I remember that. The guy that got shot like 30-some, 60-some times.
Oh yeah. When you're high, you can do some real superhuman stuff.
And,
Go be
and
bath.
everyone was like, holy shit, it's zombies. The zombies are actually happening.
What a wonderful time to be alive.
Oh man, I was so pumped for the zombie apocalypse.
Actually, something like that happened in my hometown. Cop shot a dude like 100 times and he lived.
Yeah. Humans.
Yep.
Well, I mean, there was like did he live like overall, or did he just live for a while and then die?
No, like he made a full recovery. He was a meth addict, and the cops legit shot him like 100 times.
That's impressive.
And full recovery. He even went to jail on the meth charges.
Nice. Oh, I mean, yeah, there's insane stories out there of like that one soldier in Iraq who's I would say Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, his
The
whole
same
unit
one.
becomes under attack up in the mountains. Everyone gets downed. He gets shot like 70-something times with an AK-47. He takes shrapnel from like 9 different grenades. And he manages to carry his whole team into the Black Hawk that came to pick them up. And then he climbs into the Black Hawk himself and dies.
Yeah, he had a job to do, and his body was gonna do the job.
What kills you with
And-
bullets is the shock. Yes.
Not wrong.
Yes, but no. I mean, bullets, depending on where they hit you, there's surprisingly a lot of... How do I put this? There's a lot, but almost not enough off buttons inside the human body that you can get shot in a lot of places that aren't immediately lethal.
Well, some will be lethal regardless, like getting shot in the fucking liver. You're probably gonna die.
Oh, well, yeah, but it's going to take several hours.
Oh, yeah.
You know, getting shot in the heart, heart, brain, lungs are like a 50-50. Yeah, artery.
The apricot.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there is off buttons in the human body. But I mean, hell, people even survive getting shot in the brain with small enough caliber.
You won't survive getting shot in the apricot.
Actually, to show my weebery for a second,
Oh yeah.
there are documented cases of Japanese samurai who suffered full-on bullet to the eye wounds, who lived long enough to kill the person who shot them. So, part of that's probably got to do with, you know, arquebuses not necessarily being as lethal as modern weapons. But
I wouldn't exactly say that. I mean, like, some of the shit they were shooting was 50 grain.
nor bigger.
Or bigger, yeah. 65, 70 in some cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy who got the railroad spike through his brain and lived. Now, to be fair though, he did die in his like 60s, I believe. And his brain did slowly fail over time. I believe it was either 50s or 60s, and I believe that specific story was the guy. He was drinking one day. Yeah, I mean, he had a whole personality change. He started to have memory issues, increasing more and more, and then he was just drinking one day, and then he just dies from an aneurysm.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. But yeah, so anyway, people live through shit they really shouldn't. So I spill onto the floor like a sack of potatoes, but opening my eyes and glancing up, I appear to be in a small, efficiency apartment. No.
That's
no.
that's just not where you put a comma.
I could see the small kitchenette directly in front of me, and it looked like they hadn't even finished unpacking because the ground was littered with ground cardboard boxes with the name Miltech stenciled on the side. Okay. Yeah, she just happens to isekai into a room filled with Miltech. Sure.
Of course.
Why not?
If there's gear and guns in there, I call BS. If it's just boxes,
Guess I was kidnapped by a gang that was doing gun trading.
Oh, so it's actual gear. All right, no.
Well, she's just assuming because she saw the word Miltech and was like, "Oh, they're clearly guns, obviously in these boxes."
Does she at least check?
No, she hasn't checked yet. She just looked at the box. It said Miltech on it. And she said, "Oh, these boxes have guns in them." Because, yeah, you just assume that.
You know, I will give the author points if it turns out it's just MREs and those hand warmer bag things.
Which, to be fair, in Cyberpunk,
Oh,
an MRE is probably better than some of the food in Cyberpunk.
sorry.
What the hell? Why are gangs trading guns? That doesn't make sense. It makes more sense that it made more sense that I died. What? If I died, I wouldn't still be covered with the blood and filth in the locker, and the afterlife wouldn't be a shitty apartment with cardboard boxes. And there wasn't a trail of any filth coming from the door, so there was no way I walked in here. Oh no, I teleported. I must be a cape I triggered with teleport powers. But please, why did I end up in some sort of stash house with Miltech boxes? There clearly has to be weapons inside these boxes, even though they look like moving boxes. I mean, it has the word Miltech on them. Obviously, there are guns.
From the same gun.
Or SMGs, I guess. I always wanted to be a hero, but I wasn't ready right now. Power, I like your moxie and trying to break up a gun deal, but we have to get ready. You're moving as fast as Ladybug did when she killed Jack Slash over a decade ago. I mean, I guess that's how you introduce the AU. I still think it's a stupid AU. Since his death, it has been theorized that the famous serial killer had some sort of thinker power that was useful against other capes, which allowed him to get away from all of the heroes. Why would that be a theory now? God, I hate fanon authors. Yeah. And by the way, this is still one sentence. But when a 6-year-old girl triggered with bug controlling powers while you were torturing her parents, who thankfully hadn't gotten around to calling the exterminator to remove the giant wasp hive in the backyard, there's only so much fancy footwork you can do against wasps, all controlled with the purpose to murder you. I mean, A, yes, but B, she wouldn't get bug powers. She would probably just get some
Nope.
sort of, like, single target human mind control power.
RJX, something like broadcast.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She would get broadcast mixed with administration, so she would mind control capes. Or something. I hate power swaps in Worm because they make no fucking sense when they still have the same backstory. Power, go back to Winslow. Power, go back to my room. Power, go anywhere but here. Wait, anywhere safe but here. I don't want to be in a volcano or next to Oni Lee. Wow. Witty. I stood there with my hands balled into my fists, eyes closed, eyebrows furrowed, face scrunched up. It suddenly dawned on me how ridiculous I looked. I looked like Carrie after she was drenched in pig blood trying to hold fart in. The thought of blood and my cut fingers, damaged fingernails, numerous scratches on my body, had number of possible bacterial infections and toxic shock syndrome seeping into my head. Okay, you were in the locker for hours, enough for the entire school day to pass, with open cuts, with literal toxic waste rubbing against your cuts. You don't have to worry about toxic shock, sweetie. You're fucking dead.
Yeah, but the author wants you to know that she's really fucking smart and understands what toxic shock is.
Yes, I know. It gets even worse. Possible prompt treatment was important at this stage, and I had to move before I realized what I was doing. I had only 12 hours before I got sepsis, which would kill you possibly in several days if it was a single small cut. You got several hundred cuts and your fingernails torn off. It's a little bit of an increase in sepsis contact points. Tiny bit. Smidge. Barely noticeable.
Yep.
There was no phone visible to call emergency services, and leaving this apartment was fraught with peril, so I'd have to treat myself in the apartment, which was no big deal at all. I came back to my senses in the shower. Oh, you're already falling unconscious? Well, I got bad news for you.
You're dead.
Letting the hot water run all over my body. It felt heavenly after being stuck in the locker for hours. Not only was it disgusting, but I was a tall girl, and my shoulders and neck were crinked from being in there for so long, or at least they were. Rolling my neck, it felt a lot better after washing it with hot water. I sort of remember what I had been doing, as if my body had been autopilot for a while. I stepped out of the shower, giving the bloody remnants of my clothes a wide berth. I didn't care if this was Lung's personal stash house. There was no way I was going to wear those clothes again. I'd rather run through the docks in nothing but a towel. I glanced at the mug that read World Number 1 Dad, that was half filled with an off-white powder. I had already taken about 20 milligrams of the powder. It was a shame that there was no gel capsules around, and that the time necessary for me to fabricate a pill press would have caused my treatment to be delayed unacceptably. This drug was an extremely effective, broad-spectrum antibiotic that I just manufactured out of nothing. Only one treatment was necessary to eradicate everything from syphilis to MRSA. Honestly, there was only one negative side effect. I immediately threw my towel off to my body and rushed to the toilet, and I shit myself. And shit I did. Yes, antibiotics cause that.
Fetish.
Author might have a fetish. Just, I realized I was a tinker about halfway through all 20 minutes I spent on the toilet. Yep, we're talking about this. Okay, author. I would have learned immediately, but okay, we're just gonna skip that part. The antibiotics had yep. The antibiotics had literally destroyed every microorganism in my body.
Oh, you're fucking dead.
Yeah. An antibiotic that strong would fucking cause some kidney failure and some liver failure and oh boy, goodbye intestines. This would have been very bad if humans evolved to depend on their microfauna biome.
So it's very bad, yes.
They do. Like, I'm sorry, if you don't have gut bacteria, that's actually a dangerous thing that they will literally cut you open and perform an extremely dangerous fecal transplant to try and replace.
Or sometimes they just use an enema.
Yes, or that. Like, that's a very dangerous issue that hospitals seek to rectify as soon as they can.
They rectify them as quick as they can, yes.
Yes. Except I realized I was a tinker because I had made it in a few. Yeah, that's how she knows she's a tinker. She doesn't remember making it.
Author is a moron.
Yep. I'm gonna skip this part. I'm gonna skip that part.
You seem to be skipping a lot of parts.
Well, I mean, we can talk about the author's toilet fetish, or we can skip it.
Yeah, let's skip it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. She grabbed the mug of antibiotics and walks out of the bathroom. I had made 4 whole drugs while dying of sepsis, which I found incredibly impressive. It wasn't even a proper kitchen. It was the kind of kitchen you would find in a hotel that you would rent for weeks, or a crappy apartment, like the crappy apartment I was currently in. Hey, fuck you. Crappy apartment kitchens aren't that bad. They're crappy, but, you know, they do. I had memories of taking 2 of the drugs, and the other one I needed to take immediately, and the last was a contingency. The second drug I had taken in my fugue made me frown deeply, and I was starting to get pissed off. It was an antidepressant, and as good as that antibiotic was, it was guaranteed to normalize the neurotransmitter levels within 6 to 12 hours of administration, and only needed to be taken once a week. But why did my power think I was depressed? Taylor, a retarded baby could figure that one out. Greg Verder, autism extraordinaire, figured that one out.
Yeah, but Greg has autism. That gives him like a +10 to his spot checks.
Yeah, but it gives him like a -30 to emotion checks.
And -30 charisma.
Also, yes, Underplayed does bring up a very good point. The author is saying that SSRIs actually work against depression, which we actually have several studies now showing that they don't.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah. Also, a SSRI so powerful you only needed to take it once a week. You're fucked.
Very.
you are fucked.
Like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, now, to be fair, though, it is perfectly actually realistic to do it this way with a medical tanker power. This is how I actually ran it with the OC idea I had for Worm, where the main character got effectively alchemy powers that he was able to use to make medicines and poisons with. Because all medicine is just chemical bonds, and he was able to make those. And yes, he was on a lot of drugs, and one of the main themes of that story was how many drugs he was taking and how over time he would end up taking more and more drugs, and I would explicitly show that he would start taking drugs to counteract other drug side effects, and the kidney failure, a drug for kidney failure and a drug for liver failure, and you just keep taking more and more chemicals. And because the powers aren't actually supposed to make you better. They're supposed to make you worse as a person, effectively. And if your power is making drugs in this instance, then the solution it's always going to give you is more drugs.
More drugs.
So far, the powers implementation is correct, but I think this is a case of the author doing bad math and getting the right answer.
Author was really wrong.
Why was I talking about my power like it was another person? Agent theory of human powers was widely denigrated, and only crackpots on PHO subscribed to it. Oh yes, of course the fanon theory that's actually canon is real. Why not? And of course Taylor, who's never been on PHO before now, totally just knows all about it. She visits all of the conspiracy boards. Yeah,
It makes sense.
sure. I wasn't just used to going to a few as I had done, clearly. Back of my mind rested a deep field of absolute knowledge. I had 100 different encyclopedias hooked into my brain. The knowledge was mostly about medicine, biology, anatomy, organic chemistry, and genetics. I also have been trying not to think about the vast trove of psychiatric data I now had access to. Oh, really? Shards know about psychiatry now, huh?
Author, you are writing yourself into a corner.
So, how accurate is that data?
Snaggy.
Hey, man. I know you're Skidder. I know you're Void Cowboy.
Yes, I'm Cowboy.
Good old Void Cowboy. See, this is the other thing that gets very, very, very risky when it comes to parahuman powers and getting the cheat sheet on human medical stuff. We're not right about everything. And I don't mean political shit. I don't mean political shit. I don't mean psychiatric shit. Take SSRIs, for example. We thought they made people better for a very long time. They don't. They make people better in the same way that, what's a good one? Oxytocin makes people feel less pain. It cures the pain, doesn't it? No, it just does a really good job of covering it up. The pain's still there. It's not fixing the issue that's causing the pain. It just happens to be covering up the symptom. And admittedly, that's what a lot of our medicine does. It just covers up the symptoms, and eventually we just get better on our own. And now, again, admittedly, again, some of those symptoms can kill people. And if covering them up makes them live long enough to get better, then hey, it's a win. But if you are operating on a level of a super intelligence with access to all the air quotes knowledge needed for biology, then you would know that SSRIs are something you shouldn't be taking.
Yeah, but they can't say that.
Yes. Let me bring up an example that'll get me timed out, nerd face. No. Yes, Phoenix, yes, in Discord, yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I wouldn't even say 20. I would say maybe 10. But exactly, it's like, okay, so you have a pure encyclopedic knowledge now. So if you were in medieval fantasy and you had pure doctoral knowledge, what would you have? Pure knowledge of the humors? Of the phlegms? Or would you have modern, microbiology understandings? Oh yeah, lobotomies, shock therapies. Yeah, exactly. Like, what kind of psychiatric knowledge are we talking about here? Like, what kind of biological knowledge are we talking about here? If Taylor got this power, maybe the shard is trying to sabotage her. No, I did say earlier that it is in line with how a shard would operate. Get her addicted to drugs. But and genetics as well. Genetics, of course, genetics. Which again, this is a very interesting set of knowledge she's gotten. She's got organic chemistry, genetics, anatomy, and biology. Which, if you have perfect or great or even good knowledge of all of those, you would know that your medicine knowledge and your psychiatric knowledge clashes heavily with those. And any time period, psychiatric knowledge. Let's be real here. Psychiatry was the reason why we started shocking people to cure them. Psychiatry was the reason why we started taking chunks out of their brain to cure them.
I mean, it worked.
For a very weird definition of the word cure, yes.
Yeah. For a definition of the word.
But, so it's this is why medical stuff it's better to tread in the gray area for. It's just, I know how to make drugs now. Just leave it at that.
And never claim encyclopedic knowledge of anything, because then the audience is going to test that.
Yeah, not only that, encyclopedias have been proven to be wrong.
Oh, sure, but they're going to expect you to... It's always going to be a case of, well, why didn't she do X? Shouldn't she know about X?
Also, true, but also the author describes it as absolute knowledge.
Well, that's even worse.
Oh, yeah. So, not liking this so far. According to the same part of my brain that diagnosed the exact strain of staph bacteria I was exposed to, honey, you were exposed to way more than staph bacteria. Way more than staph bacteria. There's like... What was the statement I remember hearing back in the day from my biology professor? There's several hundred different strains of bacteria on your skin at any time.
Oh yeah, you're just covered in bacteria.
Yeah. I was at a mental health crisis point. One bad day would have been to take me, push over the edge to a permanent solution. Based. It felt like gaining powers was only postponing the inevitable, and that I would likely do it anyway and get myself killed. Classic example of self-destructive behavior if I didn't take things in hand. True. It felt like my mental state was a bigger danger than the bacteria. It could be treated pharmacologically, but that wasn't really a cure. Lamau. I did
That's
not like being
actually a
confronted by this
decent-
information. My possible mental breakdown and psychological break could wait. I was really at risk if I didn't take the third drug soon. I made it out of a can of yogurt and miscellaneous kitchen chemicals, the latter of which was the same that I made the other drugs out of, which didn't make me feel better about them, except I knew they would work just fine. Okay, so she's got an alchemy reaction going on as well, because she is taking chemicals that normally, when mixed together, probably would just create mustard gas, and she is somehow manufacturing antidepressant SSRIs, antibacterial, super antibacterials, and whatever else have you. I grabbed a spoon and ate the yogurt. Strawberry flavor. This would replace all of the beneficial microbiomes after the antibiotic wrecked it. Oh, so it's important that you have a microbiome now. Didn't you just say, not only 3 seconds ago, author, that you have absolute medical knowledge, and then right before you said you had absolute medical knowledge, you made the very infactual statement that you humans don't need a biological gut biome to live?
I think I'm having sarcasm now.
I think the author might have forgotten what story they were writing. I glanced at the last drug I had made, which I hadn't thought much about. I made it as a contingency to escape. I was exhausted in the middle of a dangerous area. I might not have enough time to stay in the stash house, and there was no telling when someone might arrive. So I made a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. It was a strong, long-lasting neural stimulant. 1 dose, and I would be able to stay awake at least for 48 hours without side effects. Yeah.
You gonna die.
That's not how that works. It doesn't matter how many drugs your brain is on. If you go without sleep, funky things start happening. I mean, hey, look at the Polish guy. He fought a tree for several hours. Because of all the meth he was on. Oh yeah, he was awake. But he fought a tree for several hours, thinking it was a band of Germans.
I think he won that one.
Possibly. He still fought a tree for several hours, though. My point is whether not that he won or lost it, or really that he even spent several hours fighting a tree, but that the fact that he had that much dopamine and whatever the fuck else you're running through his system at that point, it didn't matter that he was up on them dopamines. He had been awake for like 30 some hours at that point. Your brain gets weird when you stay up for that long. So yeah, there might be no side effects to the drug. Oh, no, you don't die. You get weird.
No, you die after a long enough time. They conducted experiments on this in Russia, and they found if you stay up long enough, you die. You go into cardiac arrest and die.
Oh, well, yeah, long enough. I'm not 48 hours, though. I think it's like 3 days.
48 hours, things get weird. I'm talking about like 5-6 days.
Yeah.
You start experiencing heart palpitations, and then I want to say after about 2 weeks, you cark it. 2 weeks at the most.
It's I think it was like 1 week actually, but yeah, I remember that study, and it's just like perfect medical knowledge doesn't realize that staying up for 48 hours is bad. This is why Just say you have perfect chemical knowledge, but even then, that's not too great, because if you have perfect chemical knowledge, you would actually know about how the brain and the chemicals in the brain and how they operate. So that's kind of an iffy overlap going on there, but just say you're now chemical tinker and you know how to make drugs. There, boom. You don't need to worry about psychiatrics. You don't need to worry about biology. You don't need to worry about being wrong anymore. My character is still pretty dumb. They needed to be happy. Their shard said, hey, this is the happy drug. They took the happy drug. They were happy, but consequences. But no, now this character has perfect medical knowledge. Unforgettable. Ingrained into their very soul, medical knowledge. That isn't wrong and can't be wrong because it's perfect. In every field of biology.
Never fucking do that.
Oh no, had I just broke bad and created super meth? Author,
Funny reference.
I want you to know I hate you, Author. I hate you. I stared at the 600 grams of powder in the old margarine tub I had just made. Oh god, a single dose was only 25 milligrams by oral administration. The PRT would get me for distribution. It was all over. I'm gonna be Skidmark's second girlfriend now.
Okay, that was actually kind of funny.
A little bit. I started panting, acutely aware I was hyperventilating and having an anxiety attack for no clear fucking reason. You're in a self-proclaimed stash house. If some hero kicks down the door, just say you didn't do it. They probably won't believe you, and they'll probably arrest you. But if it's like an ABB stash house, and you're white, they're not gonna think you're part of the gang. Just
Sneaky, that's racist. Don't you know the ABB is a very diverse gang? They hire people of all races and creeds.
unless you're black, white, Mexican, Indian, Native American, Islander. Then yeah, everyone besides those groups, they hire everyone. Anyway, so she starts working and she only has a panic attack for a mere 10 minutes. And then she realized that nobody knew that she made the drugs. Yeah. Wow. So she goes to flush all the drugs down the toilet. And then she finds a smartphone on the table. And she's like, oh man, this looks like a TinkerTech smartphone. And now I'm very scared because that's a very expensive looking phone. And someone's probably going to come back for it. I was so dead. I don't think the PRT would save me. I picked up the phone, and then I dropped it in shock, and then I picked it up again. And then I dropped it again. Dad was death on cell phones, even flip phones. I never had one. But I was pretty sure what I saw was called a lock screen. You could select a picture that would be displayed while the phone was locked. So why was there a picture of me and my mom on the lock screen photo of this phone that belonged to gun runners? Okay. That's kind of funny. You die, You get isekai into another world. You're confused. You look around. You pick up the phone there. You realize that this filthy criminal that's been running drugs and guns is you.
Oh no. We were the criminals all along.
We were the criminals that we made along the way.
Some interesting confessions.
The
occurring at,
real
like,
criminals were the friends we made along the way.
Interesting confessions. What?
Just interesting confessions occurring as I get back to my computer.
Hi, Max. Were you here for any of the drug talk?
I do not recall that occurring when I walked away at 8:50, so probably not.
Alright, so Taylor has absolute, total, perfect, absolute, unquestionably perfect, total knowledge that can't be ever forgotten or not recalled of every field of medicine and biological science,
Mhm.
including psychiatry. And none of these conflict at all, which means they're perfect. She proceeds to create multiple drugs
Mhm.
and make statements like, humans don't need a microbiome in their intestines. And then, several paragraphs later goes, I must take this drug I just made immediately because it restores the microbiome in my intestines, and I will die without it. So anyway, Taylor wakes up covered in blood from the locker, washes herself off, and then realizes that this grungy, dingy apartment filled with boxes of guns is actually her apartment in cyberpunk world. She's somehow isekai'd into cyberpunk, still in her own worm body, wearing her worm clothes, covered in worm blood, probably from some of the worms that she crushed in the locker.
Mm.
Yes.
That sounds uncomfortable.
Yes. But somehow, she is in cyberpunk as herself still, and not as her AU cyberpunk body.
You know, I'll give points to this author if 3 chapters later we get a sudden intermission. It's Cyberpunk Taylor having taken place of this Taylor. And she's just wiped the trio out in the last couple days she's been in that reality.
That would be nice.
That would be fairly amusing, yes. Anyway, so yeah, she drops the phone a bunch, picks it up again, drops it again. I didn't recognize the photo of Mom and me, and I was confident we never took it. They were on the roof of the building. The background was like Tokyo. I'm sure I'd never been there. I tried to move the photo around, but as soon as I touched the screen, I tried to move the photo around. Oh yeah, because that's how photos work, right, guys? Is you just scroll around on the photo and it just moves to other parts of that area.
I mean, if you got it zoomed in.
Yes, but lock screens are a still image. Unless you're one of those fancy
Yeah,
people
no,
that somehow set up a
stream.
GIF. I tried to move the photo, but instead, when I touched the screen, it said, biometrics have matched. That's right, perfect biometric match. Despite being in her worm body. How did my phone just unlock with my fingerprint? I did lots of research on fingerprints. Back when I thought the school officials would do something about the trio. How could the phone unlock with it? Maybe any fingerprint unlocked it? That didn't sit right with the words biometric match, though. This was getting weirder and weirder. I was half expecting some kind of Saw movie from that disgusting Earth elf. Who the fuck played that? Who the fuck played that?
Played what?
Which
Nine
one?
or Max.
Which one of you
What?
fuckers played it?
What?
The
Someone used the soundboard.
Oh, I don't know. I muted soundboards across my entire Discord.
So clearly it was
We
Aura.
have soundboards now?
No, I was on another app.
Yeah, we have soundboards now.
Neat!
Oh no, it's unlocked for the two idiots in Suthner server now. Oh god, oh fuck.
This is fun.
What the fuck?
Who just did the air horn? I just heard an air horn come from somebody's mic. Who
It
was it?
was. I saw Sneaky's icon glowing green the entire time.
It was sneaky.
Oh, obviously.
Well, I can't kick Sneaky, so bye sign.
What?
However, I can now do this.
No idea what he's doing. Like I said, soundboards are muted for me.
I didn't hear anything.
I didn't hear anything either.
You will hear it in one moment.
Oh, that means he's setting it up. Oh boy.
You guys ready?
No, but go ahead.
Oh god.
What's that one called?
Vine boom.
Oh, good. You set it up on this one.
Anyway. I will have to mute the soundboard if you guys spam it, though. So I, just without thinking, despite all of this weird shit, I immediately called 911.
What?
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I just, you know, I wake up in a house I don't recognize with a phone with my name on it, with a picture of my mom and me, and my thumbprint. It activates the phone and lets me in. So I call 911 on myself.
I feel like the appropriate response, if it's going to be, I don't know where I am, I don't know what's going, blah, blah, is going to be, all right, don't worry, we're sending help, and it's just going to be one of the psycho suppression squads.
No, however, she is given the option after being told that she'll have to wait 110 minutes for an emergency service to reach her. So she says no. And then the emergency service says, all right, well, thank you for calling us. That's $10. And then hangs up.
Welcome to America.
Yes. $10 were deducted from my account. I was thinking about this for a while, but I had to say it out loud. Toto, I don't think I'm in Kansas anymore. Really? Really? 911 charging you $10 is what made you think you're not in Worm anymore. That's what did it.
That did it. The straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay. Dad was in the military. I couldn't figure out which, though. Hyperventilating. What's going on? I diagnosed myself immediately. Cardiopulmonary spasm. Hypocalcemias. Treatment was not being an obnoxious bitch. I grabbed the phone again. I use my thumb to unlock the phone. So I start going through the text messages. Alice Newman, Miltech HR, to Taylor Herbert, dependents. Dear Miss Hebert, yeah, first let me offer condolences for the loss of your father, who was killed in the line of duty. Redacted. Major Hebert was eligible for the Enhanced Combat Survivors Benefits. It has been determined, redacted. It is to be considered a police action while Major Hebert was killed in the line of duty. Death results from police action are not considered combat deaths, so you're not eligible for this. So, okay, so her dad went cyber psycho and got killed by the police. Or something, probably.
As a police officer.
Or he alternatively got killed by a cyber psycho while doing a police.
Yeah. That's more like what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's still pretty fucked up. That doesn't count for combat.
That's typical fucking cyberpunk though.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, like, spot
I'm
on.
aware. That doesn't mean I can't be disappointed.
You understand this isn't the decision you were hoping for. Blah blah. Miltech family. Minor important decisions you must make before blah blah blah. 62.
Excuse me?
So we're in Cyberpunk 62. Yeah. Illegally obligated to forward you or file to the Night City government for foster. I am not qualified, blah blah blah. 472-page guide. 3 more pages of legalese. Hyperventilating again. Foster placement. I wasn't even from this universe. I was certain of that now. Could they really put me in foster care? Yes. It's pretty much outlined it for you right there. Oh, I guess my in-universe dad was dead. That was different from what I was used to. Really? Because your dad was pretty much non-existent for like a good 4 years of your childhood.
Okay, but what about her mom?
Her mom was dead. Oh, her mom now in this AU?
Yeah, her mom now in the AU.
Oh.
Probably still
Probably
dead.
dead. Because being that she's put into foster care instead, she's probably dead. Blah blah blah, emotion, blah blah blah. This was very different. I was certain there was no Taylor Hebert in 2062. This is not Earth Gimel. This is something very different. No, not really. I mean, for all you know, you're on Earth Alf, just in the future. I mean, you traveled space. Why is time the unbelievable aspect? And by traveled space, I mean she teleported through space. Because I highly doubt that her locker was in the exact position it was in where she ended up being in Cyberpunk.
I don't think the author realizes how shit works.
I don't think the author's all that smart, yes. Maybe I just swapped with alternate Taylor. Sorry, alternate Taylor. Hope you don't die in the locker. Hopefully it wasn't accurate about swapping alt Taylor. Maybe this was for the best. Taylor had friends, people who seemed to care about her. Even if they were only words of platitude. This is Cyberpunk.
That's probably an automated response.
Some people said they would miss her since she couldn't stay enrolled at the school because her dad died by any metric. She could see she was very... Alt Taylor was superior in all respects. I didn't want to inflict my life on my worst enemy except Sophia. Not an alt version of me, but Alt Taylor was surely smart enough. Part of my brain full of psychiatric information was warning me that I was approaching an unhealthy level of self-loathing. But I told it to fuck off because I don't deserve to exist. Let's see, cardboard boxes. They actually didn't all have guns and grenades. Only some of them had guns and grenades, and those were Dad's stuff. I don't know anything about handling guns, so I shouldn't touch them at all. Smartest thing she's done so far. Company evicted you rapidly. Basic survivorship package, which included 3 months of rent at the accommodation of the choice that was green for safety. I figured out how to turn on the television, and it started playing America's Most Violent home videos. And someone blew themselves up to a laugh track. Now, admittedly, I would probably laugh to that too. I turned it off immediately. I thought life was cheap in Brockton Bay, but this goes beyond that. My dreams were of Alt Taylor's life. Alt Taylor was expecting to be screwed over. She knew it was coming. Instead of my own impression that everyone was out to screw me, Alt Taylor's impression was that this corp just screwed everyone. The nuance was different. Also, very important nuance, because it's right. Alt Taylor didn't even seem upset about being screwed over because she expected it to happen. Alt Taylor and her dad made contingencies. He was under no illusion about it happening. Swap places now. I was more sure that we had swapped places because the impressions I got from my dreams were of two boats passing in the night going opposite places. Like a stream of energy passing through each other as we coiled around. So the author is really trying to pull an Alt Taylor is now in Brockton Bay thing.
I mean, I would read that.
I would be more interested in Alt Taylor than fucking this one.
Yes.
Normally I would not contradict my self-denigrations. Antidepressant powder, wow, they work fast. The thing about normalizing neurotransmitters was it didn't cure anything. However, if your brain was out of whack, your sense of depression and self-loathing would make you avoid or sabotage treatments, my medical senses told me. I mean, sort of, yes, but at the same time, SSRIs aren't the answer. Alt Taylor's phone, contingency files, Alt Dad flowchart. Glancing at the pistol, I grabbed it, popped the magazine release, pistol slide, battery check, empty gun, full magazine. While I didn't get anywhere near all of Taylor's memories, there was a surprising number about firearms and firearm safety. Even though I hated guns, I hate guns so much, I just hate guns. Guns. Dad kept a shotgun and Mom was against anyone having guns, which was different from Taylor's mom, who also worked for Miltech. It was hard to be pro-gun control where the government hardly exists and you work for an arms company. It's also hard to be pro-gun control when you live in Brockton fucking Bay, but you know, I guess Taylor's mom was a special brand of stupid in this story.
You gotta remember, Taylor's mom is canonically an activist, so special brand of stupid anyway.
You know what? That's a fair point. It's my phone now, not Alt Taylor's, blah blah blah, universe, blah blah blah. If I kept acting like Alt Taylor and I were separate people, I would slip up. Alt Taylor had no illusions about what those in power would do if they thought I might lead them to new unknown Earths. Complete destructive testing of every molecule in my body was if I was lucky. Yes. Private files, contingency documents, small program, confirmed date of birth, blah blah blah, grades, drop-down options, transcript, emailed me. That's another thing I have to apologize to Alt Taylor for. She had straight A's. If she was waking up in my life, she had a lot of work to do, but I was barely passing any of my classes, doing not to be able to do any of the work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Flowchart was complicated. Alt Dad surely loved Alt Taylor. Suggestions made my eyebrows raise. They were all explained. As she was a minor, the corp was her guardian. They were on the hook to pay for her shit. Paying off Night Corp, which ran the city. It spelled out to her the only thing Corp hated to do more than paying out to a person was paying out to another Corp, especially Night Corp. Yep, checks out. It pretended to be a government, ran all the organs of the government. Flowchart, blah, blah, blah. Social Darwinism, fever dream, no. Okay. So that's the end of the chapter. Overall, would I be interested in this story barring a lot of problems? Yes. Am I not interested in this story due to these problems? Yes. As I previously said, my main issue so far is the power set that Taylor had specifically, which is magical alchemy powers, which allow her to turn fucking bleach and ammonia and mix them together and get an antidepressant and a antibiotic and a probiotic, all from the same chemicals. Which, is it possible to do? Oh yeah, I'm sure you can with a lot of equipment and the right chemical reactions and the right distillation steps. I'm sure you can continuously break down and cause reactions with the various chemicals until the point where you get maybe one of those three. But she did it with a spoon, a box of yogurt, and bleach and ammonia. That's kind of hard to believe, in terms of just pure, unfiltered alchemy. I could still believe it though, and suspend my suspension of disbelief. If she was just like, oh yeah, I'm a drug tinker / alchemy tinker, and I can like rearrange molecules, I'd be like, all right, I'm here for that. My issue is that the author decided to give her absolute, in their words, absolute, complete, encyclopedic knowledge of every medicinal and biological field, including psychiatry. There is a lot to unpack there, and I don't want to bother. The story's got a significant amount of bad grammar. The spelling on it is perfectly fine. I didn't see a single misspelled word. I didn't see a single word used wrong. The author, however, does not know punctuation, does not know how to write in narrative style, does not know what makes her an interesting story, and is trying to go too many ways at the same time. Now, being a fan fiction, that's to be expected. However, I won't be reading this. Won't be reading chapter 2. Won't be reading on my own time. There's just too much shit going on. It's not interesting. Is what it is. Alright, well, next time on Fanfiction, Friday. We'll see you then. Because there's always more. Always worse.